Good morning. I'm going to today talk about Madeline Astor. Now, Madeline Astor was a survivor of the Titanic. She was only 18 at the time. She had married the wealthiest man on the Titanic and was very pregnant. She had married John after he had gotten a divorce. He was many years her senior, and it was quite scandalous for her in society at that day. It was not always acceptable, like it would be today. But this is a first-hand account, as spoken by her the day she came off of the Titanic. So some of the stories we hear are written by James Cameron. People have written things that they've read in the history books, but this is actual first-hand account of Mrs. Astor just after the Titanic had sunk, and some of it was written while she was still on the Carpathia. Now, she did not tell it all at one time. It was all bit by bit, but she was very tired, and she'd been on the Carpathia. She was flat broke. She was, she didn't know if her husband's sons would accept her. She had a lot of problems. She had found $200 in her husband's jacket when they found his body, and she gave all the money away to other passengers that didn't have any money, and actually had no money at all for the boat. Now, so she gets off the boat, and she's in shock. She's lost her husband of only a few months, and she's pregnant. She's 18. She's cold. She's wet. She was able to be given a few items so that she didn't have to wear clothes that were soaking wet. But she had been one of the last to get onto the boat. She was very, very strict on the thought that her husband never tried to get into a boat. He did the gentleman thing, and he waited for the Carpathia, who never came. Said she was in bed, and she was awakened by the shaking of the boat, saying that it had, struck something she didn't know. Her husband went upstairs and, up on deck, and came back very shortly. Tried to remain calm, not to frighten her, but told her that they were going to have to get ready to go into the lifeboats. Now, she was having a lot of trouble, and she was not a woman that took much to do. She had a large suite. She had a private nurse. She had her husband's valet, her husband's chauffeur, a pet Airedale, and all these people. She felt that she was responsible to get off of the boat. And plus, she was very pregnant, and she first told how she watched as the Titanic went down, and she watched dozens of drowning men were being pulled into the boat, and they were trying to save, how many they could, but they just couldn't. Now, she first thought that she was supposed to get up and get dressed when the Titanic hit. And she's thinking about style. She's not thinking about logic. And so she's putting on her clothes, and she's not dressing right. And she gets up on deck, and she's immediately shaking. It was so cold, she said, and I had nothing on but a light jacket. So her husband sent her maid down to the ship's cabin, which was a suite, which must have been very large. The nurse had her own room. The Airedale had its own place. I mean, it was not a small place. It was a huge place. They came upstairs with some clothing for her, and they took her and they assisted and got her dressed much warmer. She'd been to Europe, and she'd been to Egypt. It was a sort of a honeymoon journey as they had taken along her trip since their marriage in Newport. They had been married in September. It was a very, very proper thing. It was one of the best suites on the Titanic that they had. And she had not been well because she was pregnant. And like I said, that she was only 18. She was in the companionway near her room, and she could hear the cries of the stewardesses. They were waking people up and telling people that they had to get out. John told her that he thought the Titanic had run over and submerged iceberg. So he had gone upstairs, and she said that when he came back, his face was very grave, but she didn't have her, she went up on deck, she didn't have her jewelry, and she did have her engagement ring, and it was an oblong diamond, a string of pearls, and he put them on for her before she left the suite. It was just horrible. They were running. People were running around. They were starting to panic, and they went into the gym trying to stay warm, staying on the horse, the mechanical horse, and they put on the life jacket, and she said that John put on the life jacket with her, which is something that was not told. It was said that John never wore a life jacket. She does say that he did wear a life jacket, and she thinks it was the last. They were next to the last ship, the lifeboats, to get on to the get away from the Titanic. She said that there were boats bobbing in and out of the dim starlight, and she saw no others nearer to the floundering ship. She said emphatically, Colonel Astor never got into or tried to move into any lifeboat, and as far as he could see, he said, "The sea is calm, and you will be all right. You're in good hands, and I will meet you in the morning." Now, she was friends with a lady named Mrs. George D. Widener and Mrs. John Thayer. They were passengers of a boat in which she escaped with other women whom Mrs. Astor knew. The boat was in charge by a petty officer, and there was one other man. She understands that he was a man from the steerage who had gotten on a petty boat's uniform and posed as one of the Titanic's crews to save his life. this was considered cowardice. And she said, well, this is fairly full, but it was not filled to capacity. And it was not comfortable because she was in the boat for nearly 7 hours listening to the screams of the people that they just couldn't get to in the dark once everything was gone. And they just kind of rode around waiting for somebody to come. She actually took the oar and helped with some of the steering. I watched my husband as long as I could in the darkness, and then I lost sight of him. But long after, I could see him no more. She could distinguish persons running up and down on the deck. She could follow the terrier's movements easily and watched her as she raced about, evidently having lost her master. Kitty, their pet Airedale, went down with the Titanic, along with with Mr. Astor. She had gone everywhere with them, and it was just sad. For 7 hours, I sat in this cold ship, waiting in the icy water, because the water was up to our knees by the time the Carpathia came. I was soaking wet, freezing, pregnant, and they were just roaming around aimlessly because they had no place to go and didn't know if the Carpathia would be able to find them in the darkness. And, it's a big ocean. She said that they did manage to pick up 8 or 10 drowning men, and she thinks most of them belonged to steerage, but 5 or 6 of them died in the boat that night. But did not know which way to look for a rescue. They were just kind of wandering around. As it became lighter and lighter, she said that she could see that they were surrounded by icebergs, and they towered above the little frail boat, and they feared that they might topple over and send all of them to the bottom. Soon after daylight, the rescuing Carpathia appeared, and she said that she knew that she was going to be okay. They rowed alongside the Canyon vessel, and then were taken on board. Mrs. Marshall of California gave up a stateroom so she could have, with her maid, a place to stay and change her clothes and everything. And like I said, she gave away all the money. It was about $200, and just distributed it between people who had found themselves surviving the Titanic but with nothing. They arrived Thursday night. She came ashore without a single penny, and she was faced by reporters. She was faced by a senator that was trying to look into things. The politics had already started. They were demanding to know things that she didn't know. And she went on to live until the 1940s. She did remarry. She gave up all the fortune of the Astors by marrying. And she lived the life of a rich man, and in that August she gave birth to John Jacob Astor Jr., and because the baby did come, and her and many others participated in different remembrances for the Titanic through the years. I hope you enjoyed this tape. Thank you.